The RAV4 has always been the king of compact crossovers. However, the current generation has grown quite a bit old, which resulted in many buyers streaming away from it and towards its more attractive and much younger competition. And if you're eyeing to buy the RAV4 or its peers, don't. At least not yet, because Toyota has got a treat for those of us who are willing to wait, because with the upcoming model year, the RAV4 will be completely redesigned, once again dominating its competition. So let's not waste any time and check out the 6 persuasive reasons why you should wait for the 2026 Toyota RAV4. Number 6. Elegant and contemporary exterior design. Let's be completely honest. The RAV4, as nice as it looks now, sticks out like a sore thumb from the entire Toyota lineup. It neither fits in with the more elegant crowd, such as the Toyota Prius, CHR, or the Toyota Camry, nor does it fit in with the rugged and tough off-roaders, such as the Land Cruiser, 4Runner, and others. It falls somewhere in the middle, with a very mid-2010s design language that, while still serviceable, started to lag behind its key competitors. That's why Toyota decided to completely redesign the RAV4, which will now boast a far more interesting and much better exterior design than ever before. First of all, the RAV4 will now utilize a much sleeker front-end design, with those new trademark C-shaped front headlights that we've seen on the Toyota Crown and Prius being the centerpiece of it. This will allow the RAV4 to look much more upmarket and reserved from the front, making it much more appealing to premium brand buyers, especially after they all decided to collectively become ugly. The grille will be positioned lower, on the lower portion of the bumper, just like with the Toyota Crown Signia and other new Toyotas. However, the front end will be more rugged and chunkier than the Crown Signia, with more creasing on the bumpers and generally more rough design language. The same is true for the side profile. The RAV4 will have a silhouette similar to that of the current Gen RAV4. However, it will have less pronounced bodywork creasing, and the wheel arches will be circular, not square, as is the case with the current Gen RAV4. However, you can also expect more unpainted wheel arch trim for those models that are more off-road oriented, as well as fully painted trim for those that are more luxury oriented. Finally, the rear end of the RAV4 will be similar to the new CHR and the new Prius, meaning that you'll have a rear taillight bar that spans across the entire tailgate. Apart from this, the new RAV4 will have a more minimalist rear end, with the rear license plate being located lower on the rear bumper, and the taillights being flushly combined with the taillight bar. What Toyota is basically doing now is what Mazda did a couple of years back. They're turning into a more traditional premium brand, and the design reflects that. Number 5. High-quality ergonomic interior. One of the biggest downsides of the Toyota RAV4 was its interior. Namely, no matter how ergonomic it was, the RAV4's interior has been very cheaply made compared to its imminent rivals, especially compared to the Hyundai Tucson and the aforementioned Mazda CX-5 and CX-50. The lower door trim has been made out of the flimsiest plastics, with lower trim models having ample scratchy plastics. In addition to that, the interior was also very dated, with a dated infotainment screen, a very mediocre digital gauge cluster, and generally not so good design through and through. Thankfully, this has been fixed for the upcoming model year, and the RAV4 will now have a much nicer and more premium interior than ever before. First of all, the design of the interior will take inspiration from the Toyota Crown Signia, focusing more on elegance and subtleness. The quality will also be improved, with higher trims having their dash and door trim wrapped with colored leather and leatherette materials, further improving the feeling of a premium and quality interior that the RAV4 is aiming at. However, thankfully, this won't result in the ergonomics falling off the cliff, as the RAV4 will still heavily rely on physical buttons, switches, and dials, which will allow it to remain the best choice among the entirety of the class. As for the interior tech, you can expect a 10-inch screen to be standard, with the 12.3-inch unit being available on the higher trims. The gauge cluster will always be a 12.3-inch digital unit. However, the higher trim levels will have the ability to customize and personalize it and make it much more utility-friendly and user-friendly. Number 4. a wider array of power plants available. One of the biggest issues for the Toyota RAV4 has been its, well, frankly terrible choice of power plants. The RAV4 has been available with only one power plant, which was the 2.5-liter four-cylinder, which showed its face on the gas-only, hybrid, and plug-in hybrid models. Well, this engine is set to return for the upcoming model year. However, it will be far more potent here. The gas-only model will come with an improved power output from 203 to 215-ish HP, which will allow it to be quite a bit more potent than it was. The gearbox will also be revised, and no longer will it be so indecisive as it is now, which will translate to better acceleration, better MPG, and more refined driving characteristics. Next up, there will be two different hybrids. The more conventional one will be fitted with the same engine as the non-hybrid. However, its output will rise to some 240 HP, and it will utilize a CVT transmission, meaning it'll be more focused on offering fuel economy instead of performance. The plug-in hybrid will offer the same engine and will also be fitted with a CVT, pushing out some 320-340 HP, easily beating out the current model. However, if you're up for a more performance-oriented model, Toyota's got you covered. Number 3. More potent IMAX version. Borrowed from the Toyota Crown and the Toyota Tacoma, the new RAV4 will utilize a 2.4-liter turbocharged four-cylinder engine that will be combined with an electric powertrain, which together will form the mighty IMAX powertrain. This powertrain will be dedicated to performance, and performance only, not MPG. The Toyota RAV4, when equipped with this powertrain, will push out around 340 HP, which, coupled with an 8-speed automatic, will translate to a ridiculous 0 to 60 times in under 5 seconds. Next up, the SUV will now be able to tow up to 4,000 pounds, making it amongst the top of the class in this regard. Finally, the vehicle will also be relatively frugal, with an average MPG figure being 39 MPG, which is pretty good for such a potent vehicle. Number 2. Better comfort levels. The RAV4 has always been a pretty harsh vehicle in terms of comfort, which is why we're extremely glad to tell you that the upcoming generation of the venerable crossover will be far better at being enjoyable to drive and ride in. First of all, the new Toyota RAV4 will use a more sophisticated dampening system that will allow the suspension to be less noisy and softer when going over bumps. In addition to that, the suspension will be more oriented towards comfort and less so towards being stiff and rigid. Which might sound bad, however, it will be compensated by a bit heavier body and better weight distribution. The steering will be a tad heavier though, which will make the vehicle more engaging to drive on B roads. However, you shouldn't expect it to be more communicative, as the steering feel will be as dead as ever. Still, most crossovers are like this, so we're not complaining. Furthermore, the interior insulation will be far better too, which is probably one of the biggest complaints of the RAV4, which will drastically reduce the engine noise entering the cabin and make the vehicle far more enjoyable. The seats too will be improved, offering better side bolstering and being much better padded. However, it is expected that the lower-end models will still come with relatively basic seats. However, with all the other improvements, that's a fairly small price to pay, which brings us to the final part of today's video. Number 1. Higher value, same price. As we previously mentioned, Toyota has taken the same approach as Mazda when it comes down to making cars. Offer both the best-looking and most reliable vehicle at a relatively approachable price, and see the market go up in flames. As such, Mazda had succeeded in taking away a solid portion of both Toyota and Honda's sales, as well as European luxury car makers. Well, Toyota is now going straight for Mazda's throat, and the new RAV4 will be at the forefront of this revolution. With the upcoming RAV4, you can expect the pricing and trim levels to remain largely the same as they were previously, with a slight but expected price bump that accounts for inflation and the fact that this is a new model. This means that the cheapest non-hybrid RAV4 will set you back a little less than $30,000 and will go up to $38,000. The RAV4 Hybrid will start at around $35,000 and will go up to no more than $42,000, which is pretty acceptable concerning how much bang for buck and how much new stuff you'll get. As for the new IMAX hybrid, you should expect it to be around the same price as the plug-in hybrid. This means that it will start at around $45,000 and go up to $54,000, depending on the level of equipment you choose, which is also the same price range you should expect from the PHEV.